One of the main reasons people book tarot reading with me is they've got a complex life and they're trying to work out what should they focus on. Is there something they should really focus on? Is there something they should let go of? It's usually a complex blend of family, work, house, money. And I can't really hold all that information in my head and read the cards. So I often use stick-it notes, and I'm going to give you an example of a really simple spread that you can use. So I'm reading for myself here, I'm reading for next year, and I've written down some basic focuses for my business next year. I've got online readings, online teaching, and workshops. So as I shuffle, I'm really going to think about my business and next year and what should I really be focusing on. And I've got my stick-it notes. I could have 5, I've had 7 before. I just find when I'm working with someone else also, it helps them to structure their question, to have the stick-it notes, to move them around. What's the priority? Where do they think I should start for them? So stop talking, focus on myself, and then I'll show you this really simple spread. I like to cut the cards. You don't need to. I think what's important is that you shuffle and cut in a way that feels right for you. And then for each of these stick-it notes, I'm simply going to read one card to represent the situation, one card to represent advice, one card to represent the short-term future, that is, as this is a reading for next year, and one card to represent a longer term future. Because I think often clients are aware that something might be difficult in the short term but worth it in the long term. So that was online readings. Already we've got the 5 of Pentacles as the advice card. That would suggest that I don't get it's very difficult when you're running an online business. It's easy to sort of get caught up in fears and worries. And in the short term, I've got death, so that would suggest that I will change the way I do my readings next year. And in the longer term, I've got a 10 of Cups. I can't help wondering whether my business is actually very diverse, do a lot of shaman work as well, whether maybe next year I'm going to have quite a lot of rods in the iron, in the fire, as it were. And the online readings perhaps will be something to lay to one side next year. Online teaching, same spread. That is summing up online teaching. Advice, 4 of Wands. It's a very creative card, focused creative card, happy card. Short term, Knight of Pentacles. Long term, Knight of Swords. Now I struggle with the online teaching because it's very much a big project and I'm not a planner. So I find the online readings much easier. Looking at that, I would say it's very... And now can you see how the reading really layers up with next year? Online teaching is definitely something to focus on. Next year, online teaching, I should be building it up slowly but surely so that in 2018 I can really sort of focus on that. And this is what I love about this reading. You've got everything in line. You can say, what is the advice? What is better for me in the short term? What is better for me in the long term? And the last spread is workshops. Pay attention to detail. I know that it's much better to book workshops and venues in advance so that students can have a real idea of what's going on. Next year, the moon for advice. I guess that is about facing my fears. I think next year is definitely a year for me to be collaborative, work with other people, step out of my comfort zone. I've got very used to working in my barns. They're not my barns, I rent them. But very used to my own safety zone. Stepping out of my comfort zone there. Short term or next year, it's going to be a lot of work. So I'm curious now. Will it be worth it in the long term? Yes, it will. I see the Page of Cups as a very creative card, and I'm thinking that the workshops will really help me with my creativity with tarot. But looking at that, if I move this so you can now see the whole spread, you can definitely see that in the longer term, letting the email readings perhaps take a back seat better for my family life. The online teaching, if I spend next year steadily, solidly growing it, it's definitely the way to go. And I like to read the card at the bottom of the pack, which is the Tower. Not everyone's favourite, not my favourite, but it's suggesting that next year is a year of breaking out, of changing how my business is structured. So this is a spread I really like to use with clients because they can see the advice, what's going to happen in the short term, what's going to happen in the long term. And very often, if I've got 5 or 7 of these laid out, we'll clear 2 of them away. We'll say, oh gosh, that doesn't look good. No, not happy with that. 2 are left with 2 or 3. And it's definitely helped me. It's helped me think about next year. So you don't have to use stick-it notes. You can use bits of paper. First card, situation. Second card, advice. Third card, short-term outcome. You set the timing. Do you mean next week, next month, next year? Long-term outcome. You set the timing. For me, this is short-term outcome is next year. Long-term outcome is probably 3 to 5 years. So this is a flexible spread that you can use to answer most questions.